Hello and good morning to everybody. First of all, thank you for joining today's webinar about GAIS and how you can use potentially in the future our platform to track and understand how your employees are feeling about their work and how you can do it as easy as possible. Um, my name is Nicolai, and I will be your host today, where I will, the next 45 minutes, try and give you an impression of how it would be for you guys to use the GAIS platform. And before we dive into some of the more interesting things, I would like to just give you some practical information here in the beginning. First of all, I of course hope that you are sitting comfortably in a chair by your desk, hopefully with a nice cup of coffee or tea or whatever you prefer to drink here in the morning. And as you might have noticed, your microphone and camera, like your microphone, are turned off, and so are your camera, which means that you cannot unmute yourself and ask a lot of good questions. But I have my good colleague Rebecca in the Q&A, so that means if you have anything you would like to cover even more, feel free to reach out in the chat, and she will get back to you with answers to your questions. And of course, we can also afterwards, if you think this was interesting, we could set up a talk where I could elaborate even more. Um, Yes, I think that was some of the more important practical information here from the beginning. Obviously, this webinar will also be recorded, so if you can make it through the entire 45 minutes, then we will send you the recording afterwards, and then you can see it when you have the time. I will just continue here to the next slide and try and tell you my agenda for today, or at least what we will cover the next 45 minutes. Of course, I would like to give you guys a brief introduction to GAIS, who we are, what we're doing, and also, of course, in relate to that, why it's important to focus on well-being. I'm sure you are all perfectly aware of this, but anyways, I will give a point or two regarding this question as well. Then I will jump directly into the platform where I will show you how GAIS works, how easy it is to set up a survey, how easy it is to conduct it, and of course also to show you how our reporting looks like. So what can you actually analyze or look at when your employees are done answering all these questions? Then later in the webinar, you will be able to try to run your own GAIS survey. It's a test, so you will basically just answer some of our questions and have the feeling of how it would be for your employees when they go through a test like this or a survey. I will also try to talk a bit about how we can prevent low response rate, survey fatigue, and all these questions that usually comes up when doing surveys among your employees. And at the end, I will also give you a short introduction or follow-up in terms of what you actually get in a GAIS subscription. Good. I think we will continue to the next slide here, where I will like to give you some insight or some points in terms of who GAIS are. And if you don't already know it, we are a digital engagement tool platform, has many names, but essentially our goal is to help companies in-house engagement surveys, because we believe with a good platform that is easy to use, we can do this in HR on our own, or in leadership, or whoever you are in terms of position in your company. We don't need to hire an external consultancy company to come and do this for us, because the platform will make it quite simple for you guys. Hopefully that's also the impression I hope that you'll get once we will into the platform, so you can have a feeling of how it would be to use it. We in GAIS, we have 10 years of 10 plus years actually of experience in doing these surveys, so we know by now perfectly well what what the platform needs to be able to do in terms of making sure that we actually understand how our employees are feeling. When using GAIS, you can of course use our surveys for the entire company. That's at least what we see, obviously, the most when companies do these surveys. But it's also possible to do it for teams. So let's say you in HR, you have a feeling that, okay, in our development department, for instance, if you have one of those, we feel like there are some tension, and we would like to get a feeling of, is this true, first of all, and also what is it that could bring the tension. So it's also very easy to send out survey just for teams. You don't have to every time include the entire company if it's not necessary. Then it's also, GAIS is also for the individuals, and I think this area is where GAIS stands out in terms of other companies doing this in the market, because in GAIS, employees will get their own personal report. So that means they will answer all the questions in our engagement survey. And then right after they submit their answer, they will get their personal report. And in the personal report, of course, they can see like how did they respond in the survey? What score did they get? So that's one thing. And that's also nice when because oftentimes we see that you will conduct a survey and then perhaps a couple of weeks later, 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you will have a team meeting or a company meeting where you will discuss, first of all, the results, but also try to dive into, so what did you respond? And what we often see is if you don't get anything as an employee, then you sit there in 3 weeks and thinking, I have no clue what I answered last time. I don't remember this at all. And then it's already a bit far away. But with the personal report, they can go in and they can look their answers. So we are actually well prepared for a meeting like this. So that's one thing. The other thing is, it will be possible for the employees, or when they get the personal report, we will also show a lot of resources, content. It could be articles, videos, small exercises, where the employee can do something on their own to improve their own job satisfaction, and then, of course, bring it into the organization. So we also want to help the employees develop on their own. I will, of course, show you this when we enter the platform, how it looks like. And the reason why we have these resources is actually because GAIS, like the foundations that we stand on, we're built on a big research, primarily conducted in the Nordics, so Denmark, Norway, Sweden, where we took part of a big research where we asked a lot of people what is important to them when they go to work, like what is the reasons why they feel well or perhaps also feel bad. And that research showed, of course, a lot of different things in terms of what is important, actually 72 factors that could affect employees' well-being. Of course, 72 factors is perhaps a bit too much to ask or cover in a survey, because that would be a lot of questions, and we also don't want this to take the entire day for the employees, because then they perhaps wouldn't answer, or at least stop in the middle of the survey. So we narrowed that. We narrowed those 72 factors down to 7 that I will show you guys in a minute. I will also, like I said in the previous slide, later try to cover some of the subscriptions that we have here in GAIS, just so you have an idea of what we can do, or what you would be able to buy into if that would be interesting in the future. We also have a lot of different languages available on the platform. And today we are gathered a lot of different nationalities. For some companies, it would be completely enough just to have English, but we have 19 different today, and many European, such as German, Spanish, French. We even have Chinese as well. So if you have employees in your company speaking one of these 19 different languages that we have, you could just set it up so they will receive the questions in their own language, because we want to make sure that they actually fully understand what they are answering to. So a lot of good things there as well. Now I would like to talk a bit about the factors that I just mentioned right before, because like I said, we ended up with 72 factors, and we narrowed that down to 7 overall factors that we know have the biggest impacts when it comes to well-being among employees going to work. And these 7 factors are the ones that you see in this circle here. So that would be balance, mastery, purpose, colleagues, influence, leadership, and achievements. And of course, these 7 factors doesn't necessarily show 100% what is important to the employees, but a big part of that they would show. And in the GAIS survey, you will also have like the possibility to ask some of your own questions, because every company is unique. So whether you would like to ask questions to like a mission or a vision or whatever it would be, you would be able to also have those questions there as well. So you cover it all, so to say. But this means that we are standing upon like a valid foundation. And you have a framework that you would be able to use also through time, because it's nice when employees starting to get familiar with the factors. We actually see some companies where these factors are being talked about during the workday. So how is your balance, or do you see purpose in what you're doing right now? So it will kind of be integrated within the company, and that's a nice feeling when you see that happening. Of course, that takes some time with doing these surveys, but eventually it will get there. Good. Now I will stop sharing this PowerPoint slideshow here, and then I will share my screen here so we can jump directly into the platform. Just give me 1 second here. I, of course, hope that you can see my screen now. Otherwise, feel free to say something in the Q&A, and then Rebecca will let me know. But of course, I would like to show you the platform and how it works. And where we will start today is actually in the personal report. And in the personal report, like I said, the employees will get a feeling of how did they score and what can they improve on their own. So this, and it's very important for me to say as well that GAIS is fully working as a browser app. So they don't need to download an app on their iPhone or Android phone. They will simply receive a mail from you guys when you invite for the survey, and then they will click the link in the survey, and then they'll jump directly to their browser answering questions. We also have some solutions if there would be any production companies here today, where we can invite them through a QR code that they will scan with their private phone. And we also have another setup where you could set up a computer in your production or in your company, where they one by one would go in and then answer the survey. So we have some different ways of doing this. But of course, if your employees have their own work email, then that would be most likely the easiest. So they will click the link, answer the questions, and then they will jump directly into their personal report after they have done so. And this is where we are now. So this is my personal report. You can also see it up here. This is my own personal. And of course, this is fully anonymous to everybody else but me. So what I can see here in the beginning would be how did I score in my job satisfaction survey. So here it would be 90 out of 100. If that would be one of your colleagues, they would have been in the upper area of the score. It's from 0 to 100. So this colleague here, or this person, would feel well going to work. What you can do from here as an employee is that you can click this little button here, and then you can get into this little sub menu where you can get an overview of how did you score in your survey, also based on all the factors that we have. So you can see the top score here. This is how you had your score in your overall factor, but you can also look and see each of the questions that we would cover. The score that you see below here would be a benchmark score, and we have some different benchmarks in GAIS. We have a benchmark that is tied to the big research that we took part of, but we also have some live benchmark, as we call it, where we can show you how you score in terms of your industry and so on. So there's different types of benchmark that you would be able to use. Good. When we scroll down here, we can also see, because when employees answer our surveys, the last question, that is actually not a question, but they need to do is this little exercise where they need to rank these 7 factors in terms of what is the most important to them right now. And this would be my rank. So for now, balance is the most important to me, and the factor purpose is the one that mattered the least, so to say, right now. But of course, this can change every time you do a survey. And the reason why we do this little exercise is actually to show you guys in HR or in the leadership team, in one of our analyzing tools that I'll show you, how you know exactly where to add some focus when you need to do some action plans afterwards. I'll show you that later. It's also, of course, possible for the employees to write comments during this survey, and here I would be able to see the comments that I would have added. And the reason that I can see them is that you can actually in HR have an anonymous dialogue with me based on my comments. I'll show you that function as well later. Now I just quickly want to go back to the main report here so I can show you some of these tools that we provide for the employees when they go through their personal report. So first of all, I will get some feedback from the platform. I can see here that my highest score is on the purpose factor, while my lowest score is on the achievements factor. Then when I scroll down, I will get some resources in terms of improving achievements, like the achievement factor. So here I can see that my lowest score is the question about your opportunity to see specific results of your work. And then we have this little challenge, as we call it, that you can press here, try the tool, and then you will enter a universe where you can work on this specific question and hopefully bring a point or two to your further development in terms of your own job satisfaction. When I scroll down a bit more, then I can also see here that the platform tells me that there is a great potential in the factor colleagues, because my lowest score is to the question about trusting my colleagues. And this is, of course, relative. So it doesn't mean that my score would be necessarily 10, for instance. It's just relative to the other factors. But the colleagues factor is also important to my job satisfaction. So here we have a mismatch. Like, I don't have the best score, but the factor is important to me. So if I could increase my trust in my colleagues, I would also automatically increase my well-being or my factor score, to say, in colleagues. So here we have a little article, 3 tips for a better relationship with your colleagues. I can press here, and then the article will simply just come here from the right, and I can read it and hopefully bring something here that I can use further on. Good. I will scroll a bit down here, and then I will get the last tool in this personal report or in this survey. And this is a bit bigger resource. We can see here that there is 22 minutes put off in terms of fulfilling or doing this, and it will include 2 videos, some PDF files, and 2 articles. Then I can press start program, and then I will again enter this universe here. I will just scroll down to the last tool that we always show, and that is our focus map, as we call it. And the focus map is actually the tool that we provide in terms of seeing or understanding the difference between the score in the questions up against how employees rank the factors. So this here is my personal focus map. And just to briefly explain to you how it works, then if you look down in the right corner here, you can see the number 1 and also improve first. So the circles that will be placed down here on the right would be the factors we need to work on as first. And this focus map you will also receive in the company report. Of course, you can't see it individually, but you would be able to see it based on departments or of course also the entire company. I would always recommend to look department by department, because that could be very different if you are in sales and development. Most likely those 2 would not look the same because of different personalities. But here I can press it. I can see that, as I also saw in the beginning of the report, that the factor achievements is placed down here on the right, because I had a low score relatively in my questions, but I ranked it as being important. And if you guys have like a one-on-one setup in your company where employees have monthly or daily, and perhaps not daily, but monthly talks with their boss, then you could recommend to your employees before having this one-on-one to scroll down in the bottom of the report, press the download function here, and then download it into PowerPoint. And then they could bring this slide here into their one-on-one talk with their boss, because then they just have a really good conversation starter, honestly. So let's say I would come into one of you guys to a one-on-one, then we could see, okay, Nicolai, there is something with the factor achievements is down here. What is it for you right now you don't think is working how you would like it to work? And also, what could we set in motion to improve this in the future? And then next time we have a one-on-one, and if we have done a survey, then I could bring my focus map again, and then hopefully we would see some of the circles changing position. Of course, a one-on-one is not supposed to be only about what can we improve. Also, it's also nice to talk about what is actually working very well. And for me, it would be up here in the left corner where the purpose factor is placed. So the purpose is really working for me right now. So there's not any need to address it more than that. Good. This was the personal report. I hope that you got a feeling of how we would like to include employees even more than they just answer a bunch of questions, shut down the screen, and think, now I guess it's up to HR or leadership to improve everything. Because essentially in the perfect world, and I of course know we don't live in the perfect world, but it would be a shared effort to have the best well-being in the company. So hopefully the personal report can prolong the engagement in terms of the employees. And here you also would be able to see some of our languages that we provide today. And as I said, we have 19 different ones, and most likely we will add even more in the future as well. Good. Now I will jump directly into the company reporting, or the company page, so where admins would be. And when I say admin, I would most likely say HR or a CEO or whoever who it would be to conduct these surveys in the company. But this is the platform where you would spend your time before, during, and after a survey. And I would like to start by showing you just briefly what types of surveys we have in GAIS as of today. We have six different surveys that you can use today, and the first two ones we have is our engagement surveys. So the first one, called the GAIS survey, that is our big engagement survey. We have 38 questions that will ask questions to these 7 factors that I already told you about. And then on the side of these 38 questions, we also have a big library of questions where you can just add. For instance, we have the ENPS. If that is something that you in the past have been using, you can also use this here. And of course, you can also ask your own questions if there is something that you would need to ask there as well. So the big survey is the one that we recommend to use perhaps once per year or twice per year, depending on how your setup is as today. Because here you'll get all the nuances in terms of how your employees are feeling. Then below here, we have the one called Quick GAIS. And the Quick GAIS is actually just a smaller survey in terms of the well-being. We have the 7 factors that we ask questions to, as in the top one, but here we only ask 1 question per factor. So that's 7 questions. Then we have the number 8th question to the overall well-being, and then the 9th question would be this ranking exercise again. And the same here as the GAIS survey, you can add questions from our library, and you can also ask your own. But this survey here would be a bit more like a temperature survey, so to say. And this will also be the one that I would recommend if you see or feel like there is some tension in some of our departments. Instead of including everybody, just send out the quick survey, because then you can quite fast perhaps understand what would be going on. Then we have a survey here called Workplace Risk Assessment. And this survey is actually a survey that we have to do by law in Denmark. And like I said, we have a lot of different international, we have bunch of different countries gathered here today on today's webinar. So I do not know how the law is in each of those countries that you are representing, but we have to do it in Denmark, and this survey covers 4 factors. That would be the physical work environment, the psychological work environment, sick leave, and stress. So here we have some questions that we need to ask. And even though it would not be mandatory in your country, you could still use this to understand how, for instance, do your employees feel about the physical work environment? Do they like their chairs? Is there enough lights? Is there too much noise, or whatever it could be? And let's say you don't want to include the questions to the psychological work environment, sick leave, and stress, you could just leave out these 3 factors and only ask questions to the physical one. So there we also have the possibility to custom it a bit, so to say. Just very briefly, here below we have the ones called a factor surveys, and we have 3 different factor surveys as of today. And this is just a possibility for you guys to dive into a specific factor if you would like to. So let's say that you would have conducted the big survey up here, and you see that the balance factor has a lower score. So this would be the balance between private life and work life. And we would like to investigate this even more or dig deeper. Then we can just send out a balance survey where we can understand a bit more what would be what would be wrong here, or what would we need to improve in terms of this factor. So these are the 6 surveys that we have of today. And then a big news, because hopefully during 2026 we will release a quite big launch in GAIS, where it will be possible for you guys to fully customize your own survey. So that means that you could throw out our factors out of the window. You don't need to use those. You can just use your own, but still use our analyzing engine. You could also just include some of our factors, some of your own, if you would like to. So of course, sorry, we are looking forward to releasing that as well in the future. Good. Now I would like to show you how our reporting is looking and what you will get back when you have conducted a survey. And right now we are on the page up here called My Reports. And this is where all your surveys through time will just be placed. And they are just placed on top of each other here, as you see. Today, we will have a focus on this one up here, an engagement survey, so our big GAIS survey. And this is kind of the front page of the survey, where we always get some key numbers in terms of our survey before we would press the big green button here, View Report. And I'll do that in a second. But some of the key numbers that we get to see here would of course be our company score. So here we have a score of 71 out of 100. We can also see down here that 38 actually responded the survey out of 43 invites. So a quite good response rate here. Of course, we would like it to be 100, but sometimes that is just not possible. So the more, the better. And here you can also see, let's say that you have this survey open for 2 weeks, and you can see that when there is 4 days left, okay, only half has answered, then we can just quickly go in and re-invite our colleagues, so they will get a new mail or like a reminder. So hopefully we can also here follow how it's going. And it's important for me to say that this is going on live, so you don't have to wait a week for a report or wait 2 weeks for a report. You get the reporting immediately as the responses are coming in. Good. Here you can also see how your score is in each of the 7 factors we have here, and then you can see these green arrows, and they indicate that we have gone up in score since the last survey that we did, because this survey is actually a part of a series of surveys, and you can see that series up here. So this survey here is from September last year, but we also did one in August, and you can see that we have these drafts for future surveys. So this gives us the opportunity to follow the development, of course, because that's very important when we do these surveys. So that means that the platform will automatically make a draft and also give you a reminder. So now it's time to do the next survey that we have planned. And then you'll just go in, look at the settings, which I will also show you, and then invite your colleagues, and then you're onto a new survey. You can also see here that the status is that it's completed, and this was the period where we had the survey open in. And then you would press View Report. I'll do that here. And now we entered the report, so kind of the engine of GAIS, I would say. And in here, you can dive into all the data that we have gathered for you guys. And just to give you a brief overview or kind of a navigation feeling, we have all our analyzing tools out here on the left. You just press them, and then some data will pop. You can't essentially press anything wrong. Of course, I'll give you some examples to how our tools are looking and how they can be used. Up here in the top dark bar here, we have also the option of navigating through the report, so what we would like to see. And I will actually start here in the middle in our segment menu, because in here we can decide if we want to dive into just a department or our own group that we can decide on our own. Because when using GAIS the first time, we would need to upload a data file. So basically an Excel file with all your employees, upload it to the platform, and then we will have the data that we need in terms of your employees when we want to do reports after. And let me just show you how it works briefly. And this is some of the filters that we always use or recommend to use. So gender, age, position, country, immediate manager. So when employees will answer questions to the leadership factor, then they will see the name of their immediate manager. So no one is doubting, okay, is this my closest manager? Is this the top leadership team, or who am I responding to? So we will always know this. Also, of course, the department, their role, seniority, and so on. Basically, you can add whatever filter you would like to if you know the information about your employees. And here, of course, it's also important for me to emphasize that everything in GAIS is anonymous. So, of course, you cannot filter down on one person. So we have some rules in terms of when we can show reports. And to see a full report, we would need at least 5 answers from 5 different people, of course. If you have departments in your company right now where you would be fewer than 5, we have a function called mini reports. And a mini report will, of course, not show everything as the full report, but you'll still get an overview of how is the score in this team. And a mini report will be shown when you have at least 3 answers, so groups of 3 or 4 people. If you have groups or departments where you are fewer than 3, then you would have to place them in some other departments where it would make sense the most. Otherwise, we cannot show it because then we would not be able to guarantee the like that it would be anonymous if there's only 2, for instance. But the platform will help you here in terms of giving you thumbs up or thumbs down if you can see like a group that you would create yourself. Let me give you some examples here. We can, for instance, go to department, hold down this menu, and then we can press customer success. So now we can see here that there is 9 responses out of 9 invites. So everybody in customer success answered the questions, and we have more than 5. So we have enough to see the full reports. So when I would press show segment here in the middle, everything I will see from here would be only data from customer success. And I can, of course, add more filters if I would like to. Let's try and add some age as well. Let's take this interval from 18 until 29. And then you can see here we actually have 3 responses. So this will be enough to show a mini report in this case. If I would add one more filter, let's say females, then you can see here cannot be shown too few responses. So you can't press this show segment. So the platform will be the police officer here and granting you access or not. Of course, if you do not have any filters applied at all, then we just see data from the entire company. I hope this in here made sense to you. Otherwise, just let me know after or text Rebecca. Now, I would like to show you some of the analyzing tools that we provide. So here we have the heat map. And the heat map is one of my personal favorites because it's very easy for us to see or recognize where we need to add some focus. So now you can see all the factors here on top and what we have as a score below. Then you would be able to use the filter again. Let's take department just for the easiness, and then we get all the departments down here. And as you might already have noticed, our heat map is color coded. So the more red of a box, the lower score, the greener, the better score. So we can quite easily figure out here where we need to add some focus. For instance, we can see that in our customer success department, we have some few red boxes. So here we would need to like have a focus afterwards when we would need to do some follow-ups on this survey. You would also be able to, from the heat map, to create action plans, so you can save them in our actions up here in the top. So when you're done with the survey, you can just go to actions and then see what you would have put down, and then these actions we need to have a focus on afterwards. Let me just show you how this could be used fast here. So in the score or in the box, we have a small box here on the right. I'll press it, and then we can press here create action, and then we just need to fill out some of these things before we create it. So this name here could be focus on balance. Here in the middle, we could emphasize what we would need to cover in terms of addressing this and improving something. We can also select a unit. So this would be the customer success team. The platform tells us automatically that this is based on an engagement survey because you can do action plans on all our survey types. Also that it's the balance factor, a status, this is in progress, a deadline. Let's say that we would need to have this done by tomorrow. So now we are also a bit busy. And you can also add a responsible person for this action because that's most likely will not always be HR. That could also be a manager or something. So let's say it would be Jack. Then we press create, and then it will fly up here in actions. And then you can see afterwards what we need to have a focus on. Good. So this was the heat map. Just quickly, I'll go on to the development factor here, because in here you can of course track the development, and then you can go up here in our top left bar here, and you can choose a period where you want to see development from. So when you have a lot of surveys, perhaps you don't want to see development from all the years, you can just narrow it down. So now here it's for 2 years. We have the years here in the bottom, and then you can just hover the mouse over the factors and see how it's going. So quite easily to see and use as well. I will just go to factors. So in here in the factors tools, you get an overview of how it's going through the factors. And we always have the job satisfaction on top, and then it's placed in terms of like the highest score and the lowest score. So the balance has the lowest score, that's why it's placed on the bottom here. Again, we can use our filters, so we can take department, and then we can see how the departments are scoring in each of the factors all the way down. And here under is the benchmark score again, so we can show that as well. I will just quickly go to the comment section here, because in here you can see all the comments that your colleagues would have put down. And of course, you can jump to the factors saying, I want to see what the people say about the leadership. Then we can read that. And it's also here we can reply to a comment. So let's say you get a comment, you think, I need to get some more information before we can continue working on this. Then you would simply just press reply. And then you can see up here, it's anonymous. We don't know who we're texting, but then you could say, thank you for your comment. Could you please elaborate? Best regards, Nicolai. And then me as an employee can go into my personal report and answer back, yes, this is regarding XYZ. Thank you for responding. Perhaps we can grab a cup of coffee or something. And then you would have like dig a bit deeper than just reading a comment thinking, I can't really use this for much. So a function that we see being used a lot as well. I will jump to the focus map, because this is the same as you saw in the personal report. And here you, of course, by filtering up here in our segment menu, you can see the focus map based on your departments. But here you can get help in terms of figuring out where do we need to add some focus. And it's the same principle down here on the right. This is the factors that we need to have a look at. We also, like we show resources to employees in their personal report, we also have a lot of resources for you on the HR side. So they would be placed down here in the bottom left, called resources. And the platform will show a lot of resources in terms of like we have many hundreds of different resources, but the platform only shows those resources that will make sense for you to look at in terms of how your employees responded in this particular survey. So you can just press on the survey, on the factors, sorry, and then see what the platform thinks that you should have to focus on. It's also important for me to say that you can, of course, share the reports with the department managers. So let's say that you would like to share this report with the head of sales, for instance. Then the head of sales would actually see the exact same view here as you guys do, but only with the responses from his or her department. And then they would also be able to use these resources if it would make sense. And if you think, okay, our leaders will not get into the platform like digital ways, we can also, of course, use our download center here on the bottom. So we can have essentially the platform creating PowerPoint reports for you guys. You can also do it in all the languages that we have. And then department heads could bring you into a team meeting or something like that. And then we can see on PowerPoint how it is. And that will also save a lot of times in terms of HR having to, perhaps some of you have tried to create your own PowerPoints based on some Google Forms, surveys or something like that, and that can just take a bunch of time. So hopefully this will be a small help as well. It's fully editable in our PowerPoint slides, so if there's something you would like to change, you can just do it. No worries there. So this was actually kind of some of the tools that we provide in the main report. Of course, I hope that you got this feeling that it's quite easy to just press around the tools that we have and analyze the data. Yes. Now I can see also the time is flying. I am good at talking for a long time. I don't want to steal your entire day, so I will just jump to quickly to show you how you can very easily and fast set up a survey, because this also is important for us that this doesn't take a lot of time. So we will go back to this view here where you can see all our surveys. Let's say we would like to create a GAIS survey. We just press create. And then we would enter the setup phase or the setting phase in terms of the in terms of this survey here. First off, we would have to give this a name, so we could just say, well, being survey, like this. And then first off, we have to pick a frequency. So is this just a one-time survey, or is this yearly, biannually, quarterly? And then you can see it will create drafts in terms of the dates, so you have them. So here we would need to pick a frequency, and also you can also down here decide when the survey will end in terms of the date. So this was the first thing. Then we will move to invitation. We need to essentially go through these steps here, and we will also help that if you once would like to use GAIS, then there is an onboarding phase where we help setting up the first survey. But the invitation here, we will have a draft made by us. You can just delete it if you want to and create your own text. And if you have multiple languages in your company and you add in the data file that we have some speaking Spanish, some speaking German, then the draft will also be shown here in those languages based on your data file. Yes. Then we will pass on to invites. And by default, we always want to invite the entire company, but we could also just say we want this only to be sent out to customer success. And then we can see our 9 participants in this department. Hopefully this is actually the 9 that you have there. Otherwise we would need to add or remove some people here. Then we would go to dialogue up here, and this is where we can, like, this is some settings that we can pick between if we want to allow collection of comments, if we want to allow replies, and is it only the admins that can reply, or is it also the immediate manager in this dialogue function that we have. Then we would go to questions, and in here you see, of course, all our 38 questions. And if we want to add questions, we just go up here to extra questions, and then you can add from our GAIS question catalog just by pressing this here. And if you have your own, you can just add them here as well. And then we will have them in the survey as well at the end. And when you are ready with these settings and you feel like now it's set up, we want to send it out, you just press this big green button here, review, and send an invitation. But you could also make a preview survey flow. So if you want to just go through it on your own as a test, you can do it here. And you can also send a link for a test to your colleagues, so they can also go through it, just to make sure that everything is looking perfectly. Good. And this is the function here, remind, where we can remind our colleagues if they did not answer it. Of course, you don't know who didn't answer it, but the platform will know and will send this reminder to the persons where we need to send it to. Good. This was what I wanted to show you from within the platform. So I'll just stop my sharing of this here. And then I will just quickly go back to my slideshow here at the end. Like this here. And go to this slide. I just want to add a few words on to what you get with a GAIS subscription, because we are a SaaS company and we like a software company. So you basically just buy a license to use the platform, and then you can use it as much as you want to. And all of the things that I showed you here today, you can you can use in both of our subscriptions. Yeah. I don't think I have much to add here. I think if you have some questions, feel free to reach out to me after here, and then we can dive into your specific needs in terms of the GAIS tool. Now, like I teased for in the beginning, you can actually try this GAIS survey for free in like a test run. So my colleague Rebecca will add a link in the Q&A session. You simply just press the link like it would be an employee in their mail. And when you press the link, you will go directly into your browser and answering the questions from a full GAIS survey. If you enter the survey and the language is on Danish, you can just in the upper right corner pick the language that you would like to answer in, if it's not already there when you enter it. You would have to answer 4 questions about yourself before entering the survey, such as gender, age, position, just to ensure you guys that would not be needed when doing an actual company report, because there we would have an organization, so we would know everything about your employees, at least everything in terms of the survey, so they would not need to cover these first questions as you do here. It's simply because it's a test. But go through it. You will receive your personal report just to see how it feels like. and you can do it as many times as you want to. So when you shut it down, like the browser, it will not be saved anywhere. So test it as much as you want to. Yes. Perfect. This was actually pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you learned some new things and also you got a good impression of the GAIS platform and how it can be used easily in your company. I will just quickly here do this so I can share my personal information with you guys. And hopefully, like feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions after this, and then we can have a talk. For now, I just want to say thank you so much for joining, and then hopefully we'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Yeah, bye.